Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Huddle. Today we are previewing the 2026 Pac-12 season. I am here with Ryan Harlan, who is a senior sports writer covering Oregon State athletics for Beavers Edge. How are you doing today, Ryan? How's your summer?
Doing good. Finally get to sort of sleep in July a little bit. I mean, it's the best
Yes.
time of year before you get back into the craziness of fall camp, which should be at least for Oregon State, at least a couple weeks from now. So kind of just waiting on that timeline of when that first day will be, and I'll be there. That's my plan. That's my goal. So we're starting back up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Some calm before the storm, I imagine. And I'm actually really excited to be able to connect today and talk about the upcoming season. The Pac 12 obviously looks different than it historically has. And so I'm really excited to kind of get your thoughts, opinions, and ideas on a few different elements of the conference. So, for you personally, what excites you most about this new era of Pac 12 football?
I think if we're, looking like big picture, it'll have to be just new teams for the first time in a couple years. Really just a normal kind of football schedule that's not a weird partnership, that's not a pseudo kind of independent schedule that you play Washington State twice in. It's really just more of, I think, the newness in the entirety of kind of this revamped Pac-12 from not only just like the football side, but basketball, baseball, so on and so forth, to where like
Right.
I think that really, kind of excites me. And also to just getting to see Jamarcus Shepard in year one and kind of what he brings to the table for this group and really kind of his first kind of foray into being a head coach because there's excitement that comes around that of where like you don't know what's going to happen until you start playing games. And for me, that's the exciting part because um, it just makes it easier to write stories and be excited and show that to the fans. So I'd say it's a lot of just the newness that's involved in this Pac-12 for, kind
Yeah.
of this year.
Absolutely. Lots of newness, and that can be exciting because you're playing opponents maybe you otherwise haven't played. You are traveling to stadiums you otherwise would not have traveled to. So it's kind of like when with conference realignment, that seems to be a topic that comes up fairly often is like, oh, this newness and these new opponents, and like now, like these new histories being either contributed to or beginning, and so it is an exciting novel time. So taking a look, and again, there's a lot of newness, so I don't blame you if you're like, I have no idea what this team's going to look like, this team, I have no idea how this is going to play out. But taking a look at the entire conference, do you have a favorite right now to win the conference?
If I had to go down through the eight teams, at least on the football side,
Yeah.
for winning the conference, Boise State's up there. I think San
Yeah.
Diego State would be kind of second, and then Fresno State, or at least my top one, two, three. It's really kind of just more question marks with Washington State, Oregon State, Texas State as well too, and also Colorado State. Like those are kind of the ones where I'm at least a little more kind of curious to see how the season plays out for them. But that's at least who I have in my top three for right now. Just more of the proven commodities that you kind of know going in from last year to this year. At least
Yeah.
there's a steady trajectory that I think you could predict out for those three teams in particular finishing at the top of the conference. That's not to say that I don't think Oregon State can have success or Washington State can have success this year. It's just we don't know what those two teams are going to be quite yet. Just with so many moving pieces, so many new faces as well too. Like even from spring, you really couldn't get a good gauge on Oregon State, at least from like position battle wise, scheme wise. There's still
Yeah.
things that kind of need to be addressed slash worked out through fall camp, but I
Yeah.
think if you can show some consistent improvement compared to what last year was, and last year I think myself and even Oregon State fans want to forget what a terrible year that was. If you can show some excitement and kind of turn things around, whether that be 4, 5, 6 wins perhaps, like I'd take that in a heartbeat. I think it's going to be a bit of a rebuilding year, but really, if you can just kind of show, that you're competitive year one out of the gates, I think you'll make it a little more interesting for Washington State and Oregon State in this first year. But yeah, Boise State's
Yeah.
definitely for me at the top of the list in terms of finishing at the top of this conference.
Right. And kind of staying on the topic of Oregon State, what should fans expect from the Beavers this season?
In terms of looking at the schedule, realistically, I think there's 6 wins. Now, that's more of just looking at kind of the entire schedule in as it is with the whole flex week. Don't know who the opponent's going to be quite yet. It may be Washington State. It may be somebody else. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But it's
Yeah.
definitely going to be a rebuilding year. That is definitely kind of what this first year is going to be. I really think, though, that you can at least maybe get some games that are kind of 50-50 toss-ups. If you can at least do that, I think you got a good shot at least making a bowl game realistically at 6-6, maybe 5-7, depending on how that whole slate kind of goes for the postseason if any teams opt out. Um, right? Like
Yeah.
I think it's just more of the expectation is going to be around 4 to 5 wins, just because it's a tough non-conference schedule going to start, and then things kind of ease up a little bit more. But I kind of have them in the 5-6 win range. But I really think, though, the big kind of excitement piece that's kind of even around that, even with such kind of a lower win total than probably fans really want to hear in this kind of first year, is Jamarcus Shepard, not only as the coach, but also as a person. Just getting to be around him and all of like this off season in the spring, like the excitement's there, like the energy's there. He's completely turned around the culture here at Oregon State to where I think it's a very solid foundation of just building up kind of this standard of excellence that really was kind of missing from the past few years. And that's not to throw the previous staff under the bus by any means. It's really something where I can feel the players have bought in to what Shepard and the staff have been preaching. And it's really something that I think from what they've done, not only from the culture, but the strength and conditioning side, and just getting to where they are right now, like that is a testament to the entire staff and the entire group working together to get this team to be able to compete right away at the start of this new Pac-12 season. Because I think if it was anybody else, I'd be a little more worried, be a little more concerned kind of going into this year. But I really like what Shepard has done. And I'm just really just curious to see how he kind of fares in his first season as a head coach, because that's really, I think, where the true test is going to be. I like what's been done in the offseason. Now it's okay, how can you pull that and translate that over into the actual season itself in a
Yeah.
week, in a game week, prepping for opponents? Uh, because that's really more of the questions that I think I have, or I'm curious to find out how those unfold.
Yeah. And it's always so interesting when you're dealing with like a first year head coach, whether they've been a head coach before or not. Like we're not given much data in the off season to try to really gauge if it's going to be a successful season. Basically, we're making predictions. But I feel like that concept of players really buying into the culture and a coach being able to set the culture in the off season can be absolutely huge and really help in kind of orchestrating a successful season, obviously if all the other pieces fall into place as they should. So I can imagine that there's a lot of excitement around that. And I know you had mentioned, along with, many of the Beaver fans that I talked to, it's like you want to forget about last season. And there seems to be a lot of excitement and optimism around this hire and kind of the culture that's being set and, like renewed hope in a way, I would say.
Yeah, like specifically, I think for me, the why I laughed was just because special teams was, to borrow a phrase from a former head coach, an effing joke, and he
Yeah.
wasn't wrong. Like when you
Yeah.
were, ranked dead last out of 136 FBS teams in special teams grades per PFF, like it's bad. That
Yeah.
is that was something where, as somebody who loves special teams play, It was hard. It was hard to watch. I think that was the first time in 5 years where I was not excited to cover games because I was like, we're beating an already dead horse, and I think
Yeah.
now, you know, now that the season's over, now that you're getting to the start of it, I think there's a little more. For me, I think it's a little more cautious optimism rather than, like trying to get back to that level of excitement that I had before 2025. I think it's more of reserved in the way of like, it's new, it's great. There's a lot of pieces that need to go right. But at the same time, though, it can only get better from here. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the way that I approach kind of this new season.
Yeah.
And really, I'm just hoping for, at least week one against Houston, that special teams is sound and doesn't make any mistakes because yeah, I think I'm gonna have flashbacks to 2025 if for some reason it doesn't.
Right, right. Now, then that's totally fair. Like that cautious optimism, like you said, for sure. And that totally makes sense. So, what transfer, either at Oregon State or someone else in the conference, it doesn't matter, could have the biggest impact on their program?
In terms of transfers that I really liked
Yeah.
across the Pac-12, Caden Pinnock from UC Davis going to Washington State, like he was
Yeah.
somebody that I wanted Oregon State to go after. And that was more of looking at kind of the losses in the quarterback room at the time as they were happening, guys transferring out. And I think that was right about maybe when we were a little unsure of what Malik Murphy was going to do, whether or not he was going to stay,
Mhm.
whether he was going to go. Ultimately,
Yeah.
he ends up staying, but that was really something there where I was really kind of like hoping that if Malik for some reason decided to transfer, that Shepard and company would be able to pick him up. Obviously, he goes to Wazoo with Kirby Moore. I think that's a really good pickup for them. But in terms of like impact transfers for Oregon State, Dylan Lane out of Idaho, inside linebacker. I really like him paired up with Aiden Sullivan. I also kind of like both receivers that from former Power Four programs were able to get. Shepard was able to get just revamping that wide receiver room in general. Aaron Butler and Bubba Hampton from Alabama. Those two guys I think are going to be impact receivers right away for whoever ends up winning the quarterback competition for Oregon State. I think it's Malik Murphy's job to lose in that department. But
Yeah.
those are kind of, I would say, the really kind of big ones. But definitely, just for like the Oregon State side in particular, I think some of the ones that you're able to get, like a Dylan Lane, I think are really huge because not only do you get a good number two linebacker next to Aiden Sullivan, but also at the same time, his coach is here from Idaho. His defensive coordinator is here, Court Dennison. So that makes it an even easier transition into learning, this new scheme under defensive coordinator Mike McIntyre and kind of building off these kind of roles that they have on both sides of the ball with Dennison McIntyre manning the defense, and then Coach Ryan Wallace, tight ends coach, co-offensive coordinator with Mitch Dolan, the offensive coordinator. So really, to me, I think it's those are kind of the big ones, at least on the Oregon State side. But I kind of have to give a little bit of props to Wazoo there because that was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a really good one where when I saw that news broke, I was like, damn, that's a good one. Like I can't even be mad at that. Like that's really good for them. So
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the biggest game on Oregon State's schedule this season?
I gotta say it's Texas Tech at home because not only just from like a ticket perspective, but that's like one of your marquee matchups the entire
Yeah.
year, and it happens in week two. I I know Texas Tech is going to still win that, but that's definitely I think the biggest game on the schedule by far. Maybe a close second is Washington State, just because of you know kind of last year and then the year before that, but also now that Trent Bray, former Oregon State head coach, is now the defense coordinator there. So there's going to be a little bit of you know, spiciness there that I think is going to be exciting. You know, you get some good storylines out of it. That's for sure.
Right.
But that
Right.
Texas Tech game, by far, I think will be the biggest on Oregon State's schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And which team could surprise people this season in the Pac-12?
I think the biggest surprise could be Oregon State. I'm being a little bit biased, but if I had to go objective,
Yeah.
I think Washington State. To be quite honest, I like the acquisitions that Kirby Moore has gotten from the transfer portal. Not only guys that he's been able to retain to, like a Kirby Voorhees, who a lot of people thought was going to follow Jimmy Rogers to Iowa State, but also just you bring in a really good defensive coordinator in Trent Bray. Like Trent Bray as a head coach, yeah, things didn't work out this last year, but as a coordinator and what he's been able to do since gaining the defensive coordinator role when he was named interim defensive coordinator back in 2021, um, he he's really good at what he does, and that to
Yeah.
me, I think is a really kind of sneaky hire that Moore was able to do. Not only is it a place that Trent Bray holds near and dear to him, having grown up in Pullman, but also too of just the experience factor of having somebody that's been there before, that's been a head coach, that can help out a first-time head coach in Kirby Moore too. This kind of first year in the new Pac-12, like I think that's really really beneficial, and I think could surprise some people, and then maybe Texas State too, just kind of the newness of bringing in a team
Yeah.
that from the Sun Belt, from the Fun Belt Conference that you're not really quite familiar with, that could kind of go any
Right.
other way. But really, I think it's those two. If I had to go objective on that, not
Yeah.
not bias.
Not biased. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate both perspectives. So both are important for sure. And what's one storyline about the Pac-12 that deserves more attention?
I think it's just really the if I had to pick one, I think it's just the year one, right? Kind of see what this conference gives you.
Yeah.
Because that's really going to be dominating the headlines. That's going to be what people are going to view, what people are going to see kind of in this first year, and kind of make their judgments off of that. Because I know everybody is kind of like we don't know what this is going to be quite yet, and for me, like yeah, I don't know what this is going to be either. But I think you know the season itself is going to be, I think, the storyline in general, the whole body of work, because that to
Yeah.
me, I think, is really kind of how you, if you're not a Pac 12 fan, if you're not, in the current new Pac 12 as it is, just watching it for the first time and seeing kind of what these teams look like in this first year with this level of competition, because that's where I think the excitement comes from for
Yeah.
everybody, right? Like that to me,
Totally.
I think is the big storyline, because I think that's something that's going to just play out over time. I would say that like big picture, yeah, that would be maybe the biggest, but I think really for other storylines that you could probably pull from, it's what do Oregon State and Washington State do in this new Pac-12 conference? Because I've heard it from Oregon State uh, leadership in the athletic department, and even from the coaches as well too. Not only from Jamarcus Shepard but Justin Joyner, uh, that they feel like they can compete at the top of the Pac-12 right away. So it's really just do do those two teams kind of set the tone early and start that trend, or is it going to take a little bit of time before they get there to compete at the top of the pack?
Yeah. It's a fascinating year, again, because of the newness. It's like these teams are all responsible in their own individual way for shaping the identity of what this conference looks like. So it's kind of like people are watching them and paying attention to how certain teams compete and which success some of these teams have, if not all of these teams, in their own different ways, to kind of reform this identity of the Pac-12, but also like their impression and opinion of the Pac-12. So I'm with you. I think it's really exciting. I think there are a lot of question marks. I think there's a lot of unknown as we sit right now before the season starts, but kind of like week by week, it'll be like another piece added to this overall impression of what makes up the conference for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's how I take every season, right? Like you kind of
Yeah.
take it week by week because it's kind of the whole saying of never get too high, never get too low, right? Like I think one week doesn't tell you a whole lot. Week one won't tell you a whole lot. Week two won't tell you a whole lot either. Even for like the Oregon State side, I'm like, yeah, those first 2 weeks against Houston and Texas Tech aren't going to tell you a whole lot. It's really
Yeah.
like the biggest test I think starts against Montana at home, which against a good quality FCS opponent, you should win
Yeah.
that 9 times out of 10. The one time out of that happens. It's happened before, but like that, I think is going to be the true test, just to see what this team kind of is and gives you kind of a barometer. But like for those first 2 weeks too, like really, I just want to see gradual improvement and being able to compete through
Yeah.
4 quarters. Like that's really my kind of things I want to see the first couple weeks of the season because
Right.
yeah, I won't know what kind of this team is from 2 weeks in to at all because I think you'll know probably by midway through exactly what they're going to be. But yeah, you just take it week by week because there's
Sure.
just so much new coming at you that you can't really form an opinion until you have enough information to kind of give thoughtful analysis on this new Pac-12 conference that we have.
Totally. And like with that, what's one misconception people have about the conference heading into the season?
In terms of misconceptions, I think it's just more of the whole this is the Mountain West 2.0 kind of deal. Like that to me, sure, I get where that comes from, but also at the same time though, there was a deliberate reason why there was no reverse merger with Oregon State and Washington State and the rest of the Pac-12 and the quality of Mountain West programs that they picked from to come into the new Pac-12.
Yeah.
And really, to me, like I look at a team like New Mexico, which I have family from New Mexico, both at UNM, New Mexico State. Football's not the strong suit of those two programs by far. Now, what Jason Eck has done so far at UNM is amazing. I love to see it. Like I told my parents, I'm like, yeah, this is not, the UNM team that you remember. But historically, though, in the football side, they don't have that level of success. The fan base is not quite as passionate about. So a lot of those lower tier programs don't really, I think, do anything to boost your national perception. And that's not trying to slight those programs in any means. It's just looking
Yeah.
at the historical precedent that you have when it comes to football. But like those teams in particular, like a Colorado State, San Diego State, uh, Boise as well too, and Fresno have been at times very successful, and that to me, I think, kind of shows the selectiveness in how the Pac-12 went
Yeah.
about trying to add teams, kind of in that 2 year period. And then also at the same time, though, my whole kind of thing with adding Texas State is having a new kind of exciting team kind of thrown in there that's gaining a lot of perception in terms of just being able to not only raise their profile but also just have kind of a little bit of a wrinkle where at least for Oregon State, like the Pac-12 in particular, has had some success recruiting from the state of Texas, and I think that
Yeah.
not only continues that level of success, but also just being able to establish your national perception and be able to get yourself into these other markets because that's really huge. That's really big. As somebody that grew up on the East Coast, like, man, getting Pac-12 games, you're staying up till 3 in the morning watching them. Like, I
Yeah.
watched
Yeah.
2020 Civil War till 3 in the morning. Like,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
it's something where I think could really benefit the conference by being able to not only from the TV side but just getting into those markets and expanding eastward to a Texas State.
Yeah, no, it's I remember like those Pac-12 after dark tweets of people on the East Coast staying up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. just to finish a Pac-12 game that was really good. It was really exciting. And so, yeah, I totally get what you're saying from that side of things is the television markets and the accessibility would be huge for sure. Okay, so now we're going to do the Pac 12 lightning round. So, quick answers, I don't know, instinctive reactions, whatever you might think off the top of your head. Who do you think is going to be the Pac 12 champion?
If I had to pick, I think it's Boise. I mean, kind of
Okay.
going back to our earlier,
Yeah.
kind of point, right, on how I think the first few teams are going to finish. I think it's Boise, but I think watch out for Fresno and San Diego State to make some noise there in that race because I, as much as I want to say, I think it's Boise's conference to lose. Those two teams have done some things in the offseason that I really like, and I think they're going to be kind of in that mix to finish them. But
Yeah,
Boise's, I'm going to stick with that answer.
totally. Our Oregon State record prediction.
I have them realistically at 5-7. Six
Okay.
and six is more the optimistic approach.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair. Yeah.
yeah, but like 5-7, 4-8, I could see as well. But 5-7 is kind of where I have them. But definitely room for 6 wins.
Okay. Dark horse team in the conference.
Dark horse team in the conference. Ooh, Colorado State, just because I am a fan of Jim Mora and what he's done with UConn so far, and kind of what he's been able to do with some of his offseason acquisitions, with getting guys out of the portal like House Janey from Oklahoma State.
Mhm.
I think they're one there, and then Washington State too. I would say is potentially an option.
Yeah. Biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise, I think it's going to be, I want to say Oregon State, just
Okay.
because not only from what Jamarcus Shepard has done in the offseason, but just the talent and the staff that he's been able to bring in. And I really like what this coaching staff has done so far. I also am very impressed with their track records and what they've been able to do,
Yeah.
not only at their previous stops, but just from what you look at, like for guys that have gone on to the league and who these coaches have coached at this level, like Mitch Dolan has coached Michael Penix, right? Like has sent him onto the league, has been around Kalen DeBoer, really kind of getting his first reins into calling his own offense and being able to be paired up
Yeah.
with a really good co OC in Ryan Wallace. And then also too, just Mark Hagan on the defensive line. He's coached a lot of great pass rushers. Miles Garrett. He's coached George Karlaftis, which as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I'm like, I love to hear that. I hope I could talk to Hagan and pick his brain a little bit, just having grown up watching the Chiefs play and just seeing that connection there was kind of cool. But just
Yeah.
the talent, right, and the development standpoint that this staff has done, I think there'll be some surprises there for what this group is
Yeah.
able to
No.
do in year one because I really like the experience that Shepard has brought on, not only just from guys that have been around a little bit in the biz, like Mike McIntyre or Coach Hagan, right? Like, but also bringing up new and upcoming guys like Mitch Dolan to Corvallis.
For sure. Totally. And the biggest disappointment in the conference.
Biggest disappointment in the conference, I would say Texas State, but it's not in a negative way. I think it's going to be more of just kind of seeing, how they kind of fare from a step up in
Yeah.
competition. But
Right.
it's not, I would say set in stone by any means for them either. It's not even a knock to Texas State fans at all. It's just more of you guys are going a step up from the Sun Belt, and there's going to be a curve there, like with any kind of step up in competition. So it's really a matter of how do you adjust, how do you approach that in this kind of first year. But I think they're gonna be a fun team to watch regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Best game on the schedule.
Ooh, best game on the schedule. There's so many good ones too, from like not only intra Pac-12 matchups,
Yeah.
but like
Oh, right. So true.
but also doing the non-conference slate as well.
Yeah.
I would say for the best one probably is going to be, if I had to go conference. I think Oregon State and Washington State's going to be a good one. I think
Yeah, I agree.
Boise State is also going to be a really good kind of matchup for them. San Diego State is going to be, I think, an interesting one. Um, and then Fresno in October, for at least for Oregon State, I think that's going to be an interesting game too, because it's been a minute since Oregon State's been down there in Fresno, so that's going to be a road
Mhm.
game. And I know
Yeah.
what happened the last time that that they played down there. So I'm just curious to see if we get kind of an exciting like Pac-12 after dark kind of game down in Fresno for that. But yeah, it's so hard to just pick one, at least in the conference set of games. But
Right.
for yeah, non-conference slate for me, yeah, I got to go Oregon State, Texas Tech, just because I still
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I remember last year quite vividly and how that game went. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, new season, new game, hopefully, right?
yeah,
And then one bold prediction.
I think that for bold prediction, I think you'll get three bowl eligible teams for the
Okay.
Pac-12
For the
this year.
Pac-12 this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's realistic. Not trying to go overly
Yeah.
too
No.
bold, but like that's just more of what I think. Just more of
Yeah.
kind of the talent level that you bring in going into this year. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that take. I think that's great. I am super excited for the upcoming Pac-12 season. Always a fan of Pac-12 After Dark. I think that is deeply embedded in many Pac-12, either former or current members, but also just college football lovers in general, is the Pac-12 After Dark. And I really appreciate you taking time to talk about this exciting time in the conference, especially with Oregon State and kind of all, again, the newness and the novelty of it, excuse me, and kind of what we're going to see this season. I'm really excited for college football to be back in general, and I really appreciate you taking some time to talk ball with me.
yeah, no, of course, always down to talk ball, even if it's Oregon State or not. Like it's
Yeah.
always kind of an exciting time when you get a new once in a lifetime almost an opportunity to a degree with realignment, but also too just getting to see a revamped Pac-12 conference that you haven't seen in over 100 years. So yeah, I
I
think there's
know.
palpable
Super
excitement.
excited. Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter, X at Ryan underscore Harlan 7. That's where I post all my articles, any in-game updates, news stuff, things like that, or just general my own sports takes that are going on, in the sports world. I mean, we just wrapped up the World Cup, so I,
Yes.
had some fun with that. But also too over at Beavers Edge, over at On3. So that's where you can find not only my stuff, but the rest of our staff. Not only from football side, we're getting our top 20 articles out right now for 2026, but also too, we're getting ready to gear up for fall camp coverage. So plan to be there. So we're kind of just seeing what we're going to get for fall camp this year because we got a limited look for spring
Mm,
practices
yeah.
in terms of just what we were able to view as media. So not just for myself, but for everybody else that covers Oregon State. So we're just kind of seeing, at least for fall camp stuff, this first week. Do we get kind of the same, or we're going to kind of tweak it a little bit to be a little more quote heavy to kind of give you guys what the coaches and players are saying from these practices?
Awesome. Well, this has been great, Ryan. Enjoy your last little bit of summertime and relaxation before all of the chaos begins. I really appreciate your time and I hope you have a wonderful college football season.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.